Indian Lake. It's 8 o'clock. Good morning. This is Northern Light for Monday, May 22nd. I'm Todd Moe. Monica has the day off. One of the biggest obstacles for the local food movement has been how to gather produce from lots of growers and get it to individual customers scattered across the North Country. A new local food grant is aimed at solving that problem. Some of the money is earmarked for a delivery service.
A lot of low-income areas, they're a driving distance, and not everybody factors in the drive to get food. We're not going to be able to go to everybody's house, but we're going to try and work it out as best we can so that we can get within the vicinity of most people.
Lucy Grindon has that report. Also, Governor Hochul is considering whether some SUNY campus dorms this summer could be used to house an expected influx of migrants. A new law will make it easier for military spouses to transfer their professional licenses when they move from one state to another.
Here I am, a spouse who wants to gain employment as soon as she arrives in her new location to prevent that gap of income. Depending on the state that you are moving to, the credentialing process may or may not take a significant period of time.
And the story of an Ogdensburg substitute teacher who wrote a song with 250 kids. It's all coming up on Northern Light. Stay tuned. Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by the Village Mercantile, Saranac Lake, partnering with local nonprofit organizations to sell their merchandise through their e-commerce store, villagemerc.com, and by Apothecary Chocolates, making gourmet chocolates by hand from all natural herbs, botanicals, and tree syrups, apothecarychocolates.com. This is Northern Light. I'm Todd Moe. Governor Kathy Hochul has said she's exploring all available state properties as potential housing options for an influx in migrants that could include SUNY campuses. Republican State Senator Joseph Griffo says considering SUNY campuses is ludicrous.
These kids, the students just left and they're coming back on August 1st. There's construction going on campuses. So for this governor to indicate in any way that she's going to look at state assets is ridiculous.
A SUNY spokesperson says they are assessing whether there are SUNY resources available to help with the arrival of asylum seekers. Several upstate New York counties like Onondaga, Oneida, Oswego, and Madison have issued emergency orders banning entities in the county from sheltering migrants. Immigration advocates are pushing back, saying the emergency orders are not humane. WRVO's Ava Pukic reports from Syracuse.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here.
In response to the emergency order issued by Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon, immigration advocates held a rally in downtown Syracuse. McMahon says the county is already expecting 1,900 refugees over the next 12 to 16 months and doesn't have the capacity for any more from New York City. Kayla Kalichian of the New York Immigration Coalition says she believes immigrants make the community stronger and says it's not the time to instill a scarcity mindset.
And we're not going to fall for that. We're not going to fall for that scarcity mindset. Because if anything, I would like to ask, well, how did we get here? If you're saying all this, maybe they aren't doing the right thing, right, to get in the beginning. And so stop pinning it on our communities.
Yvonne Griffin of Citizen Action New York says Syracuse has always been a sanctuary city and believes the order is racist as the county has welcomed Afghan and Ukrainian immigrants, but is now not going to allow the migrants from New York City, many of who are Black and Hispanic.
We speak 82 languages, so now we're going to say that some of them 82 languages are not allowed here? That's inappropriate, especially if they're being denied hotel access. Like now you're depriving them of housing.
We will march and we will fight. Migration is a human right.
In Syracuse, I'm Ava Pukic for WRVO News.
A Washington County grand jury last week indicted a Hebron man who's accused of shooting and killing a 20-year-old Schuylerville woman last month. 65-year-old Kevin Monahan allegedly shot Kaylin Gillis as the car she was in was leaving his driveway. According to the Glens Falls Post-Star, Monahan's been held at the Warren County Jail without bail since Gillis's death on April 15th. The paper posted a video of her father, Andrew Gillis, speaking to the media after Monahan was again denied bail last week. At times he had to pause and take deep breaths, holding back tears.
She had hopes and dreams of becoming a marine biologist or a veterinarian. She loved animals. And this man took that away from us.
The night of the shooting, Gillis and 3 of her friends got lost looking for a friend's house in Washington County. They drove down the wrong driveway, stayed in their car, and turned around. Authorities say that's when Monahan came out of his house and fired a shotgun twice, striking the vehicle once. Gillis's friends drove a few miles away where there was cell service and called the cops. She ultimately died of her injuries. Andrew Gillis says he's confident in the justice system and that his daughter deserves justice.
Kaylin's 2 younger sisters, Lily and Maddie, are going to have to grow up without their older sister. My wife, Angel, is going to have to go through the rest of her life without her baby girl.
Monahan faces the charge of second-degree murder in Gillis's death. The grand jury also indicted him on reckless endangerment and tampering with physical evidence charges. One of the biggest obstacles for the local food movement in the North Country has always been aggregation and distribution, how to gather produce from lots of small farms and get it to individual customers scattered across the region. A new local food grant from the USDA is aimed at solving that problem. Lucy Grindon reports.
Cherie Witten's farm grows just about every vegetable you can grow in the North Country. In the fields surrounding the farmhouse, there's garlic, sage, lemon balm, and asparagus.
Do you like asparagus?
I love asparagus. In the greenhouse, they've got brassicas like broccoli and cauliflower, and even some corn seedlings. And it's just gotten warm enough for the kale to be moved outside the greenhouse.
Oh my God. Wow. Whoa, it's like sweet.
Oh, our kale's sweet. You're not the only one. We make a dish in Tupper Lake. We make a marinated kale salad. And people constantly come and ask me, they're like, what did you do to that kale?
The farm is in the hamlet of Winthrop in rural St. Lawrence County. They have an on-site farm stand and they do a CSA, but it's still hard to get this food distributed to people. Adam Dewberry is the director of the local food system program at the Adirondack North Country Association. He says there are a lot of barriers to local food access in the North Country, especially for low-income people.
There's a whole list. Starting at the top, most pressing ones, cost is always a concern. Like local food is just more expensive than buying food from Walmart, let's say.
Another big problem people have is physically getting to where the local food is being sold.
Just having the farmers market as a point of access can be tough for people too. For
example,
the Canton market is during the week. It's on a weekday when people might be working. So there's, like I said, it's a really complicated problem.
Having to get to farmers markets and farm stands contributes to the overall cost of the food, too, especially with the fluctuating price of gas. It can be a lot cheaper to go to your local grocery store once a week than to drive out to multiple small farm stands. Witten's been trying to address these issues for years. About 7 years ago, she started the Adirondack Food Hub, a local food market in Tupper Lake. She says about 10 to 15% of the food she grows on her farm gets sold there. And for the past few years, she's been applying for the USDA's local food promotion grant.
I almost gave up trying for it, but I didn't. I tried one more time and I got it.
$500,000. Now she's planning to set up an online platform for the Food Hub, where local farmers from all over the North Country can list their produce and customers can buy it from them. A large portion of the grant money will be used to get that food to customers by offering delivery service.
We've got some big food deserts as far as drives to local food up through the North Country. So a lot of low-income areas, they're a driving distance, and not everybody factors in the drive to get food. But being able to have local delivery, and we're not going to be able to go to everybody's house, but we're going to try and work it out as best we can so that we can get within the vicinity of most people.
They haven't mapped out their exact routes yet, but they're going to get a refrigerated truck and drive it all over the St. Lawrence Valley and the Adirondacks.
Let's say, for instance, that somebody in Ogdensburg orders salad lettuce mix from Julie at Bird's Foot in Canton. And we go to Canton first on our route, and we would pick up their order when we're at her farm, picking up orders for other people. And we would drop that same order off in the same route in Ogdensburg when we get to Ogdensburg.
Another portion of the grant money will go towards building a better food processing facility at the food hub, so farmers can take their extra produce and do something with it before it goes bad. Those kinds of processed, value-added products, like tomato sauce instead of tomatoes, for example, will help farmers make money off of food that would otherwise have gone to waste. Right now, the plan is for Witten's husband to drive the refrigerated delivery truck, which she says is not ideal.
Farmers should be farming during the season and not driving. But once we get it established, I'm thinking with the colleges around here that we'll find summer help to do that.
Witten says local food means more local jobs and helps the regional economy.
Most of the farms in this area, almost all of the inputs are local. So it's going to be local labor, local fertilizer, manure, mechanics, whatever.
She says by buying local food, customers can keep their money local.
If that stays in the hands of the people, it's going to change life for people in the North Country.
And she wants local farms to be the default food source for people in the North Country, and not just a supplement. Lucy Grindon, North Country Public Radio, Winthrop.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 12 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe. Coming up in just a few minutes, a new federal law lets military spouses with professional licenses transfer them across state lines. We'll have that story from the American Homefront Project coming up in a moment. Happy Victoria Day to our listeners in Canada on this Monday morning, the 22nd of May. And this is music by Gananoque, Ontario artist Evan Veenstra. Northern Light is supported by St. Lawrence Health, committed to keeping the community healthy and safe by providing vaccines for patients to strengthen their defenses. StLawrenceHealthSystem.org. And by Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, presenting a full season of events and activities, open May 26th. Advance tickets at the adkx.org. A new federal law will make it easier for military spouses to transfer their professional licenses when they move from one state to another. The law's backers say it will cut red tape so spouses can continue their careers without interruption. But it's not clear exactly yet how the law will work or how states will comply. Desiree Diorio reports now for the American Homefront Project.
Military families get orders to change duty stations every few years. For Beth Basham, that's meant 4 moves over the last decade as the Air Force ordered her husband from Germany to Hawaii to Wyoming and now Colorado. Basham works as a dietitian. She says license requirements for medical nutrition therapy can differ dramatically across the country, and the wait time for a new state license can be nerve-wracking.
Here I am, a spouse who wants to gain employment as soon as she arrives in her new location to prevent that gap of income. Depending on the state that you are moving to, the credentialing process may or may not take a significant period of time.
About 5 years ago, Basham moved from Hawaii, where dietitians didn't need a license, to Wyoming, where they do. She had a job lined up at a local hospital, but had to wait about 3 months for Wyoming to license her. She says gaps in employment are typical for military spouses like her, who work in fields that require state licenses.
It's just a condition of employment that my employer either has to accept and say, okay, we'll wait for you, or no, we need to move to another candidate because we need this position filled ASAP.
At the beginning of the year, President Joe Biden signed legislation that overhauls professional licenses for military families. States are now required to recognize valid licenses from every other state. Republican Congressman Mike Garcia of California wrote the bill.
They don't have to wait to get, an appointment with the certification board or the credential board. They don't have to pay the fees for getting a new certification or credential, so that they do have the option to come in and work right away.
Garcia says the law supersedes the state process for license transfer for all professionals except lawyers.
It's akin to the laws that say if you have a driver's license from Arkansas and you go to Michigan on orders, that driver's license should be recognized.
Even before the new law passed, some states had formed reciprocity agreements for certain professions like nursing, making license transfers easier within that group of states. Garcia says those compacts have helped, but don't go far enough.
The problem we had was they weren't moving fast enough. And so rather than allowing, 50 states to move at their own speed, with their own standards, their own industries, we just said, hey, we'll make this easy. We'll compel you to do it. And licenses across state lines are now recognized.
The challenge now is to make sure that military families know to rely on the law when they're transferring licenses, and make sure states are complying. Advocates for military families say the law could be a game changer. Meredith Smith is with the National Military Family Association.
This is an incredible attempt to really holistically, once and for all, address the challenges that military spouses and military families have had for a long time.
Still, Smith says she's interested to see how the law will play out.
Now that the law is passed, how do they communicate with the respective licensing authority that they're going to, that this federal law exists? And then how do the states operate within that? And I think that that's what remains to be seen.
Garcia says he's working to get dedicated resources to advertise the law to service members and train people on military bases on how to use it to help troops and their spouses. The law does not spell out penalties if states don't transfer a license, and there's no direction on how to implement it. Garcia says it's on the states and their licensing boards to comply. So far, he says he hasn't received any pushback. I'm Desiree DiOrio on Long Island.
This story was produced by the American Homefront Project, a public media collaboration that reports on American military life and veterans. The State Olympic Regional Development Authority Board approved more than $38 million in new capital projects last week. According to the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, those include trail and electrical upgrades at Whiteface, sliding track improvements at Mount Van Hovenberg, and new snow grooming and snow guns at Orta facilities. The new state budget includes $92.5 million in funding for Orta. The Enterprise reports that approval of those projects means close to $73 million has already been earmarked for new projects. And a new playground in Clinton County was named for a local woman who spent her life encouraging young people in her community. The Rita A. Wilson Park was dedicated earlier this month. According to the Plattsburgh Press-Republican, it's located in the Saranac hamlet of Redford, where Wilson lived. Wilson went missing in October 2021 near her home. She had dementia, and her disappearance set off a wide search that involved loved ones, agencies, and the community. It ended 4 days later when she was found dead in a wooded area. The Press-Republican reports that Wilson was a huge hockey fan and supported the youth in her community who played. She also helped young people through her work at the SUNY Plattsburgh Financial Aid Office. You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe. Monica Sandreski has the day off. Coming up in just a moment, how a substitute music teacher in Ogdensburg got 250 kids to write an original song. We'll hear that story coming up in a moment. Also at 8:30, it's back to more news on Morning Edition from NPR. Weather Service says sunshine today and tomorrow, highs mid-60s this afternoon, and highs in the 70s tomorrow, then a chance of rain on Wednesday. Lows tonight dipping down into the 30s and 40s. Some of the higher elevations of the Adirondacks and Tug Hill region might see some areas of frost overnight tonight and early Tuesday morning, but tomorrow should be nice with partly to mostly sunny skies, highs in the 70s, and then about an 80% chance of rain on Wednesday, partly cloudy skies on Thursday and Friday. Right now in Canton, sunshine and 47 degrees. Carrie Woodcock is a musician, a writer, and a health coach. But one thing she is not is an elementary school teacher, until the pandemic changed that. In August of 2020, Carrie got a call from the Ogdensburg City School District superintendent asking if she would fill in as a long-term sub. And while it was certainly out of her comfort zone, she took the gig, only to find that her students weren't allowed to take off their masks to sing, and they weren't allowed to practice instruments in a group. So she started brainstorming. Eventually, Carrie and hundreds of students all wrote an original song together, a piece that helped them navigate uncertain feelings brought on by unprecedented times. She spoke with Mitch Teich on the North Words podcast about that experience.
Honestly, initially, I had a lot of moments of panic in the middle of the night, thinking, oh my God, do I have enough material for these kids? Because it's really easy to lose control of 30 kids if you don't have something to keep their attention. But initially, we just kind of plugged away at that. We did some song analysis. I played some songs, and we went through, like, what song structure was, the meaning behind the song, maybe a little bit of history of why people wrote the songs, like trying to connect, I guess, to the emotional aspect of it. And I had dinner with one of my friends over Christmas break, and she said, Carrie, why are you not doing what you do best with these kids? And honestly, it had crossed my mind. I thought about writing a song with them, but it was a big task to take on. I knew it would be the whole school. I knew that maybe they wouldn't even participate. Maybe they would think it was, it's music class and they're elementary kids, and maybe they wouldn't think anything of it. And also, every time I wrote a song, I never really knew where it came from. I kind of always had this feeling like it came through me rather than from me. Like it was, and sometimes a song doesn't come out.
Like you can't force the muse to cooperate.
Exactly. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. Sometimes there's a lot of blank pages. So I just never know with that. And usually when I'm done, I'm like, I don't know where that came from or how it happened or how I ever pulled it together.
But you decided to give it a shot.
I did. I decided that she gave me the little push I needed, and I decided to dive in when we got back from break. So when we got back, we started initially, like the next month, every single one of my classes, we brainstormed. They really started to open up. It was surprising how quick they did. And they started talking about all the different things that they were experiencing and how much they missed. Birthday parties was a big one. How much they missed sports, and they also started sharing some other things about how grateful they were for their families. And, there were some kids that their parents were essential workers, healthcare workers, and they had a hard time because their mom was gone all the time. So there was a lot of ups and downs. There were good things and bad things. They talked about online learning. They talked about the good thing about being able to sleep in or go to class in your pajamas, or the bad part about it, and that it was once you got lost, it was really hard for them to figure out what was going on, and they didn't have as much for resources as they normally were used to.
Through all these changes, online days are the strangest. Good to see you if only on a screen.
See soon in
person, my back will be hurting from carrying the whole world around with me.
They shared some really amazing things for little kids. I was moved by it. I really was.
And this was going on at every grade level?
Every grade level, right down to little ones. You word it a little bit differently, but you can still talk about that stuff with them. And I think that, maybe one of my biggest purposes for being there was maybe because of those conversations.
So you're writing the song, and it sounds like largely what you were doing with the kids was working on the lyrics?
Yes. So with them, I took all of the ideas, and we then took those ideas and we put them into a theme. And I told, we talked about song structure again and what the verses of a song accomplish and what the chorus and the main idea of a song is. And then we talked about what a bridge does. And then we decided what story we wanted to tell. And we worked through the progression of that story. So after I took all of their ideas, and we had like a concept, almost like an essay form for the song, and then I took their ideas and then went a little bit further and set it to some music. Actually, I remember when the lyrics first started coming, and it was just driving one day, and I pulled over and I put it in the notes of my phone so that I didn't forget it.
So the whole process took the second semester?
Yeah, it really took the rest of that school year because I brought the music back in. We started learning it, and then we couldn't sing in group settings, so I brought in all my audio recording equipment, and I captured them individually, and then merged all their voices together. I probably had about 250 students that actually participated because I didn't make anybody participate.
250 students participated in this.
Yeah, it was amazing, actually. And so the other music teachers were like, how are you getting them to engage? And I said, well, I'm giving them a voice. They're taking ownership of this. Like, this is their story, and they love it. They love it. I could hear it, like, ringing through the halls, and they would sing it all the time. I still have kids come up to me now.
We do what we do to get through.
Carrie Woodcock is a musician, writer, and health coach, and for a year and a half was an elementary school music teacher in Ogdensburg. She spoke with Mitch Teich about the experience of writing Getting Through with her students. You can hear their entire conversation and the song in full on our website, ncpr.org/northwards. Coming up on 28 minutes past 8, you are listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio on this Monday morning. It is Victoria Day in Canada. Thank you for listening, and happy Victoria Day to our friends in Canada. And we're back to more of Morning Edition coming up in just a moment. I want to remind you that there's a lecture coming up a week from tomorrow, May 30th, being presented by the Adirondack Garden Club, The Forest Beneath Our Feet, the Underground Relationships. A lecture given by Justin Waskowitz. He's assistant professor of forestry at Paul Smith's College. He'll talk about forest soil ecology and how these concepts interact with forest management. It'll be given at the Performing Arts Center at North Country School. It's organized by the Adirondack Garden Club. Starts at 10 o'clock. Doors open at 10. The program starts at 10:30. It's free. It's open to everyone, but you do need to register because seats are limited. Visit the Adirondack Garden Club's website, AdirondackGardenClub.com, and fill out the registration form. That's coming up Tuesday, May 30th. The doors open at 10, and the program starts at 10:30 at North Country School. And that's Northern Light for this Monday, May 22nd. Stay tuned. More of Morning Edition in just a moment. If you missed a story or would like to listen again, check out our regional news page at ncpr.org. I'm Todd Moe. Thanks for joining us. Be well.